out-of-place artifacts, also comically known as UPAs. Historical, archaeological, or paleontological artifacts that are perhaps found in a strange context or just look a bit unexpected in comparison to other things from that particular culture or time period. They don't belong, they challenge the, quote, conventional historical timeline, or they're, again, quote, too advanced for the technology of the day. The internet loves them, Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock make their living off of them, they're big, they're buzzy, but what about the actual archaeology behind them? Welcome to a new series where I am diving into some of these strange objects, looking at the documentation, the facts, and hopefully showing you that they aren't so strange after all. For our first foray into the pseudo world, I thought I would bring in Stefan Milo, who you probably all know and love. He's no stranger to the pseudo archaeology world, and he has taken on stuff like this a lot more than I have. And today we are going to be delving into the infamous Baghdad Battery. Hello, hello.
Hello. Sorry, I thought that was to the audience, not to me.
Hey, Stefan, how you doing?
Good. Very good. I put dairy cheese on my bacon sandwich today. Controversial start to the day. Or laughing cow, as it's called here.
I was like, that's the laughing cow cheese. I like that.
Instead of brown sauce. Tried something new.
You're a Brit, and that's why it's controversial.
Yes, yeah. Typically, only brown sauce. But today, I was like, maybe laughing cow cheese on my bacon sandwich. Yeah, I know you didn't expect me to say that, but that's just... that was just what was happening 10 minutes before I came onto this call.
America is changing you.
It is. Sadly.
But we are not here to talk about bagel toppings or sandwich toppings, unfortunately. Well, or fortunately, we are going to talk about one of my favorite ancient artifacts to actually dig into. I don't know about you, but the Baghdad Battery.
There is something I love about these unusual artifacts. Even though I don't buy into any conspiracy theories or ancient aliens or anything like that, there is something great when you uncover an artifact and it's just what were ancient people doing? What actually is this object? What is this artifact? It's always great to have a little mystery, even if it's not aliens.
It is. I love, and that's for me what makes archaeology the most fun thing is there's just so many weird things that people were doing back in the day. People that we're doing now that people are going to look back at going, what is this?
People always say that with fidget spinners, don't they? They always say in 5,000 years when people find a fidget spinner, people will be like, what was it? But I try and wonder if there's anything in our time that is really has a practical purpose or something like that will absolutely stump people in the future.
Well, I just keep thinking of Motel of the Mysteries.
What's that?
The whole narrative. Have you not heard of Motel of the Mysteries?
Motel of the Mysteries? Book. No.
Let me grab it up and share it with you.
Motel, as in a hotel by the road?
Yeah. So
one of those?
Yeah. It's a story about people finding an old motel in the year 4,000 and something.
Oh, so, interesting.
In the year 4022, all of the ancient country of USA or USA has been buried under many feet of detritus from a catastrophe that occurred back in 1985.
That's so funny. USA as well. What will be mispronounced from our time? So
things are missing. You can see just where it was and all the outlines we have with archaeology, the old highways.
Wow, that's a fun book. I might have to check that out. It's I did see, when we're looking at sites like Göbekli Tepe or something like that, a very obviously very ritual, symbolic site for people. And, we wonder about the religions and beliefs that people had in the past. And it's interesting to imagine someone trying to recreate the Christianity and the biblical stories from uncovering the ruins of a church. How close could you get? Not at all, right?
There's one. So they go into the motel and they're everything is, they got the Steely drawings, but I want to find the one thing because you were talking about that. So here's the motel room. and they fell down into this pit, and you're like, oh gosh, this sacred room, super ritual, all the numbers mean something. And then they find, obviously this is the Howard Carter,
Yeah.
homage, someone dead on a bed, and oh no, I want to show.
Oh no, Google Books. They're only giving you a taste.
I want to see if I can get it. No, they thought that the toilet seat was, here it is. Essentially like some ritual headdress that you would use the toilet paper to like.
That's so funny.
Great
I wonder how
photos.
many generations of archaeologists or generations of people who've become archaeologists because of that book. That's a really fun idea.
I love it. And just that's when you mentioned that one, the toilet seat image from Matilda Mysteries just popped in my head. Like this is it. This is
Yeah.
the very utilitarian thing that we're like, no one's gonna not know what that is. And then
Yeah.
2,000 years later, people are like, oh, it's a sacred headdress.
Mm.
But
I mean,
anyways,
it would fit. Yeah.
I know. But yes, and that's essentially what happened with, I guess, the Baghdad Battery, which is really interesting.
Something has happened to it. Yeah. There's all sorts of videos, people testing it out. It's often as well connected to the idea that the ancient Egyptians had a giant light bulb. I know I see that as well. Maybe we'll dig into that in a little bit. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but
the Dendera lamp. Oh gosh, I want to do a whole video on that one too, just to get into it. But yeah, there's this notion that's been floating around for a while, because I remember growing up with this stuff where these ancient civilizations potentially had electricity. It was in one of those books I had as a kid of like greatest discoveries of the ancient world, and it was the Baghdad Battery. Oh my gosh, it had, power to potentially light streets and give electroplating and all this stuff. And I never looked into it much until we were like, yeah, let's do this video. And I'm actually sort of obsessed with it now. But like in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah. So I guess what we should do, let's go into the folder I sent you, because I collected a lot of stuff for us to look at. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the initial documentation that we have of this supposed Baghdad Battery. And if you go into the Rabua folder of the drive that I sent you,
Rabua, okay,
you'll see that there are some documents that I've actually added since I sent this to you, because I finally got into the archives of the library at UCL, and I found the hard copy of the original journal, and I was able to take some photos of it last minute.
Oh wow.
The first evidence we have of something sort of coming out that has been called a galvanic cell or some sort of battery from Baghdad is in this article, this journal here called Sumer, Journal of Archaeology and History in Iraq. And this is the 1964 publication. And it was in this news and article section here. So it was called originally the Rabua galvanic cell. And what's interesting is that the Baghdad Battery, it wasn't technically found in Baghdad. It was found very close to Baghdad. A lot of people think that it was found at a site actually called Salman Pak, which is southeast of Baghdad. So if we go to Google Maps, I can show you here where it was. So if we've got Baghdad over here, this is essentially where at first people were saying that it was found because it was somewhere called Kujut Rabu. But it was actually found, if we go to the article, it was found somewhere called Kuyut Rabua. So that's where that mistake comes from. And it's when they found it in 1936 by the Iraq State Railway Department. There was a site that they found while they were trying to just dig and get some dirt for... they weren't actually building a railway. They were just like getting dirt to like throw into some marshlands to help control mosquitoes. And they found it at mile 44 on the Baghdad Bakuba line. And that's about 2 miles off of the Baghdad Eastern Bund in the 30s. And so if you look up Bakuba on Google Maps, which I have ready for you, it's way, way up here.
Okay.
So it's north of Baghdad. And Baghdad has obviously grown over the years. But from what I've been able to kind of piece together with old maps, I would say it was around this area here, that where my mouse is at the moment, like Shab and Banouk, back in the old borders of Baghdad. I don't see the train line anymore. I don't know if they have a train line anymore, and all the bridges have been renamed, so I'm going blind. But let's say around this area here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling it up. Oh, so it's about 12 kilometers from the center of Baghdad. It
Pretty
seems.
much. Yeah.
According to Google Earth, the line I just drew on Google Earth.
Yeah, so like I would say like it was found in the vicinity of Baghdad, maybe Baghdad proper today, depending on how big it's gotten. I've not been, unfortunately, so I can't really tell you that bit. But once there was like an ancient burial that was found, and there was a stone slab that was covering it, and immediately, like the very good workers that they were, they called in the antiquities department to come and excavate it. And they identified it as a settlement of the Parthian period. So that's around 248 BC to 226 AD, according to this one. And they actually dug there and did like proper excavations by, as you can see here, Sheriff Yusuf and Jawad al-Safar from the Antiquities Department. And they got a lot of stuff. They had like 613 objects. And of course, one of these objects was, as it says here, a curious aggregate composed of an ovoid pottery jar with dented mouth containing hollow copper cylinder with one end closed, iron rod, and a number of bitumen crumbs. That's all we have. Yeah, bitumen crumbs. I love that. Yusuf and Al-Safar, nothing was ever actually published about this excavation. So this is the earliest thing we have, pretty much 30 years later, of something kind of talking about their initial work. This piece that they found was actually brought to the museum in Baghdad, and a Mr. Wilhelm Koenig, he was in charge of the laboratory at the museum there. He studied it, and he did publish a very short article, which I have here in German, if anyone is interested in reading it.
Well, I think you should read it, Raven. Let's hear your German title. Come on.
My German grandmother's going to put me to shame. Ein galvanisches Element aus der Parzerheit. I did live in Germany for a year, so we'll hope
there you go.
Still there. Ein Ausgraben des Irak-Museums in Kajut-Rabua. I'm getting into a weird accent there. But anyways.
Südesten von Baghdad.
Yeah, so he's saying here, which is interesting, southeast of Baghdad.
When it was north, no?
It was. So this is where all the confusion sort of comes from. It's really a little bit weird, but this article in Sumer, I think they were actually looking at the reports. So it's one of those things that maybe we'll never know the real truth, but this one has quite an in-depth, this one here has quite an in-depth, description of everything. And they've done their homework. So I would maybe trust them a little bit more. But he also wrote about it in his book, The Lost Paradise of Iraq, which is, again, a little bit of a problematic title. But this is
it's interesting, though, that he was hypothesizing that this is an electric cell straight away. I think I saw that. Even in 1939, like that was the first hypothesis around this artifact.
Yeah. So right here, immediately, that's the title, right? A galvanic element from the Parthian time. It's quite crazy to think that immediately someone was looking at that. And Al-Haik in this article does mention this bit here. So he wrote, since its discovery, it's been arousing much scientific curiosity. And there was actually a study that went to Austria in 1936, the University of Austria. But there was no study actually like kind of documented or published that's been found. So we don't know what they thought of it. But immediately, he was like, this is some sort of primitive process of electroplating, because that's what he kind of saw being used by locals in Iraq at the time in 1939. And he kind of immediately was like, this is some sort of, galvanic cell that they used for electroplating. He looked at some artifacts that they had in the Baghdad Museum and said, that's clearly, they were plated, silver plated. And he's like, this is must be how they did it, because this is how the locals are doing it.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder what it is that makes people think that this is electroplating, like straight from the get-go. Do you know what I mean? Is it the fact that there's an iron rod in the jar? Is it the bitumen? Like, I wonder what it is what element is like making people think this is a battery straight from the get-go. Something like that, something electronic.
I wonder if it's just because of the way it looks and how old batteries used to look. And it does look like a modern battery in a sense of the shape and the metals, and with electroplating and things where you would actually get this electron exchange, which is what a battery does. You need two different types of metal, and that could potentially have sparked something.
I'm just Googling now for the first time, what does a battery look like on the inside? And you're right, there is a rod that runs straight through the center of it. Interesting. The cathode. I know that I've heard these words, but
yeah, we all learn it in middle school and then immediately forget it.
Yeah. Exactly.
You've got the cathode, and then you need usually there's copper. You need the actual metals that produce electricity, or that sort of that ion exchange. So copper, zinc, other metals that I'm not aware of. But even old lithium batteries looked something like this.
Okay. So this is kind of what batteries looked like at the time it's discovered, I suppose. More or less, más o menos. Or maybe this really predates that a little bit.
1930s battery. Oh, wow.
Okay. They'd advanced a little bit then. But interesting, they look like tin cans. That one's looking, the Etsy Norway, that one's looking Baghdad Battery-esque.
Whoops. Yeah. Okay, I can see where they got this idea now. If you look at the antique batteries.
Yeah.
I guess, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck,
then it's alien. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, then it's aliens.
Ancient technology.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is the first evidence that we have of them saying oh, this was a galvanic cell. And we've got some good photos of it. It looked like this. And it had, what it had was this copper tube. There's the bitumen pebbles, or whatever it was called. Crumbs.
Yeah, bitumen crumbs.
I love that. And this iron nail. And then inside was this copper tube. And this is sort of what it was going to look like. This metal was suspended inside this copper tube. That was also then, it had a little bit of bitumen on the bottom. And then there's this big jar, ceramic jar, surrounding it. And the jar itself, if you look at it closely, it looks like it's just a regular jug with that the neck has been just chopped off.
Yeah. Doesn't look particularly ornate or elaborate or anything like that. Seems pretty plain old pot. Yeah.
It's like someone just had it lying around. And so, the iron rod apparently, or the nail, it was protruding about 10 millimeters above the bitumen plug. So this thing actually was plugged in, and it was going to hold it like that. And it wasn't touching any of the metal. And actually to have a galvanic reaction, you need to have metal touching metal to have the ion exchange. So that's interesting.
I'm just looking at the ruler here. It's quite small. This isn't I always imagined it somewhat bigger than that. But this is really, we're looking at maybe a 15 centimeter pot. Yeah. I don't know why. In my head, when I pictured it, I've seen pictures and imagined it. I never really noticed or saw a scale bar. It's a third of the size that I thought it was, actually.
I always imagined it to be a chunky boy.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Big. I was going to say big pot energy, yeah, but it's quite it's got big pot energy, but it's quite a small pot.
That's fair. It's just about how much electricity you can
Yeah. It's
generate.
not about the size of the pot, it's about what you're using it for, okay?
It does. Now thinking back at it, I always I did imagine how big it was because you think old battery and you're thinking like the Dendera lamps and they look huge when you're looking at them on the hieroglyphs or whatever, like you're seeing it as compared
Yeah,
to
they're like twice the size of a person.
yeah.
I love one of my favorite artifacts of all time. I wish I owned one. It's just like a giant amphora.
Yes,
That's like, I would love a giant pot like that. So that maybe that's why I'm always assuming these pots are so big.
I
Because
love the
that's
big ones. Yeah, the
yeah,
ones you can fit inside.
yes, yeah. I want my kids to play hide and seek in giant pottery, like it's night at the museum or something. The reason that this is like believed to be a battery fundamentally is there's an iron rod in a copper in a hollow pot, and in a copper iron rod in a copper tube in a hollow pot. But although I'm no electrical engineer, it seems fundamentally because the metal isn't touching anything, this can't actually work as a battery.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think someone did like a study once back in the like they kind of said, "Oh, we found something like acidic and that there could have been something acidic in the jar, like in the tube or something." But the metals aren't touching each other.
Mm,
And I think some people were just going off the assumption that because most liquids in the ancient world were acidic at the time, like wine, vinegar, um, not oil, but they just thought that they would like use something like that to then create some sort of charge.
mm,
And there have been experiments where they've tried to create the Baghdad battery into a battery,
mm,
and it has held some charge. Like it has kind of given off some electrical something, but not very much. You would need a lot of them. And because it also had a bitumen stopper, you need oxygen to do any sort of electroplating with the galvanic process because that's the
mm.
whole point of it oxidizing onto the metal. I'm not a physics person, but that's how I understand it. And if you're blocking it all up with bitumen and the metals aren't, touching, there's no way that it could actually do anything.
Interesting. Yeah, I also don't have the science credentials to dig into how a battery works and the charge that's coming off it, but don't we also get charges when you just put two rods in either side of a potato?
Exactly.
Like so, so
If someone told me that the Inca had batteries, I'd be like, yeah, they had potatoes. That makes
yeah, yeah, yeah. 40 million potatoes lined up next to each other just to like turn one fan or something. Yeah.
yeah, the biggest magic trick you'll ever see. Paul Kaiser actually saw the research of like how it did emit some sort of charge, and he kind of suggested that it was actually used for almost like electrotherapy
Mm.
and chronic pain for like pain relief, like electroacupuncture, because it's a very feeble charge. And he said it can be used for electroplating, like they have been suggesting, but it has some sort of electric current between the copper and the iron electrodes. So that was his main theory in
Mm.
this article.
Oh, geez, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know
that
what
was
that
a new
means.
word for me.
Yeah,
Which
me too. I don't know what that means.
it apparently means like insensibility to pain without loss of
Mm.
consciousness. So it's a drug used to relieve pain, I guess. I can think of it. I'm imagining like just because I'm a woman with period pains, you get like those like tens machines,
Mm.
and they kind of zap you.
Yeah, I do love those actually. I am a sucker for a tens machine. The second I have even the faintest sprang in my back, I'm like, oh, get the tens. Come on. I can't move. Yeah.
Children come. Yeah.
Yes. Children, fetch father's tens.
Someone else did a test and they realized if they do that, because obviously there's ion exchange, it erodes the metal, and the iron plug, the iron rod, did actually at the top where the iron exchange was happening did actually degrade a little bit. And if we look at the one from Rabua, you'll see that it actually just looks like a nail. like the top is actually properly wider at the top than and then it kind of tapers downwards. So there was no degradation of it. So it definitely wasn't being used as something to collect ions off of and plate anything. Contrary to what people online might say about the Baghdad Battery, the first electric battery, known as the voltaic pile, wasn't ancient. It actually came about in 1799 thanks to Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, which is where we get the term volt from. From telegraphs and early telephones to laptops, mobile phones, and even electric cars. Batteries have become such seamless additions to our daily lives that they, like many other skills and technologies, are often taken for granted. With such a disconnect from manufacturing, many of us rarely ever take the time to understand the things that are absolutely vital to our civilization. If learning about the vital innovations and developments that have created the world we live in today, and how we would go about rebuilding them if society were to, collapse tomorrow, is something that you're curious about, then you might be interested in this video's sponsor, the book, The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization. It is a huge, as you can tell, beautifully illustrated book that covers everything we would need to start again from scratch. The book covers everything from the basics like fire, pottery, and shelter to industrial developments like batteries, light bulbs, and even the combustion engine. There are even important how-tos for cultural and societal essentials like art, musical instruments, rites of passage, and storytelling. There are over 400 pages outlining scientific, societal, and engineering histories, principles, and practices in easy-to-follow steps. This is a book I would have devoured as a kid, and it makes a great gift or coffee table book to spark ideas and conversations about parts of our world that we often take for granted. Just last week, the book inspired me to try my hand at nautical knots. I am not going to show them to you on camera because more practice is definitely needed. But if you're interested in history, technology, or even survival prepping, this book will give you hours of edutainment. Use the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen to get your copy today. Don't forget to use the promo code DIGITWithRaven10 for 10% off. Big thank you to Hungry Minds and The Ultimate Guide to Rebuilding Civilization for sponsoring the video.
Can I ask a question? Can't help but notice there seems to be many pictures of jars of similar kind of thing going on. How many Baghdad batteries are there?
That's the fun fact. There wasn't just one, which everyone just talks about, the Baghdad Battery. There was actually 11 jars that have been found, potentially 12, but there's no documentation for the 12th, except like one note that it was found somewhere else. But yeah, 11 jars from 3 different sites.
And one of those I'm never sure how to pronounce.
Oh yeah, Ctesiphon.
Ctesiphon, okay.
Ctesiphon. Yeah, the sneaky C.
The silent C throwing me off there. Did they ever pronounce that? Did anyone ever say Ctesiphon or Ctesiphon?
I'm not sure.
I know that's a curveball of a question there, but
yeah.
Like how English has knee and night and things, and I think people did used to say something like canite, knee.
Ctesiphon is really cool. If you've seen any photos of it, it's got this amazing building.
Knee.
What? Did they say Kani?
I think they did used to say Kani.
Wow. I guess that's maybe where the silent K comes from.
Yeah, Kani, and night was something like Knecht or something like that. And then they just dropped the K but kept writing it down.
There's got to be some linguists.
At least according to my thorough research using Google AI.
Silent K in words originated from changes in pronunciation. With a CN. Knit.
I heard that with words like Ptolemy as well. They did used to say Ptolemy.
Wow.
That's why the P is there.
Okay. So should we be calling it Ctesiphon for the remainder?
Maybe Ctesiphon. What happened in Ctesiphon during the Ptolemaic period? I don't know.
It was a capital of an Iranian empire for a while. It was in the Parthian Sasanian period. So it's a really powerful site.
That arch is spectacular, to be honest. That
Isn't it
I would
beautiful?
love to visit. Yeah.
I would really love to. And I love the reconstructions that you can see, like how grand it would have been. Just stunning. So that's Ctesiphon. If we want to see it on a map, just so we can see where it is. So Dakhasra and Baghdad is all the way over there.
Okay, so south of Baghdad. Interesting.
So it's very similar to
Similar region, though. Very
Yeah.
similar.
Very similar to where Salman Pak is, which is actually I think that is where Ctesiphon is. I'm not gonna lie, my geography is not so good, but yeah, that's where the original sort of thoughts were for with the Salman Pak discrepancy of it being found southwest of Baghdad. So yes, the other ones were all found sort of in this neighborhood around Ctesiphon. So there's Ctesiphon and then there's Seleucia. So the Baghdad Battery, surprisingly, wasn't even the first one that was found. 6 years earlier, in Seleucia, or Tel Umar, where they were digging. It's on the other side of the Tigris from Baghdad. Again, that's south, really pretty much across the river from Ctesiphon. They found the first jars. And it's a Sasanian site. So it's the period right after the Parthians, so post to something CE. 200 something CE. And they were discovered during an excavation by Leroy Waterman from the University of Michigan. And they're all very similar to the Baghdad Battery. And Koenig actually did mention them in his initial report about the Rabua one. He's like, oh, there were 4 other ones that were found in 1930. But no one ever pays them any attention.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea there was more than one. Like, absolutely no idea until you had sent me that.
I honestly didn't know about it either until I started really researching. Like, I thought maybe there was like 1 or 2.
I've seen lots of people talk about the Baghdad Battery, all of this, all of that. It's a very famous artifact. Until you sent me that, I literally had no idea there was more than one of them. And the one that everyone knows about wasn't even the first one discovered.
I thought the Baghdad one, because of the name, that was the one that was found first. And then seeing all these reports, so I did find the report from 1930, and they're just like in the little notes and comments section about these sealed jars. And if you look just at the top of page 61, it says here there's like they only put in one picture of one of the jars in this report. But he said it's one of 4 examples found during the closing days of the season. It's always at the end when they find the good stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm never at the end. I always go for the beginning of the excavations. I need to learn my lesson.
You're just taking off the topsoil. It's like, right, okay, see you later.
Do all the prep work for everyone. And
There you go.
And then immediately someone finds a coin. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. It's not Raven Todd de Silver, it's Raven Top de Soil. Sorry.
That's gonna haunt me now every time I go back on site.
Yeah.
Topsoil for you, Raven. But yeah, they even say here, small jars, 6 to 8 inches in height, of a very common unglazed ware. Like you mentioned, they just look like regular old jars. Different types though, 2 of a handle, others none, and all were sealed with bitumen stoppers. And what's cool about these ones is like they were kind of all found together, but one was found upright and it had a small glass bottle inside of it. And then the other 3 were sort of lying down horizontally, and they were held in place by small metal rods around the pot. And each one, so the rods were about 6 to 10 inches long, so they were quite, lengthy rods for the size of the pot. And they kind of projected above the jar, so they were caging them in. But each of the jars had at least 1 iron rod. So the rest of the rods were bronze, but each jar had 1 iron rod, which is very interesting.
So when I see people reconstructing it in a battery, a lot of them is kind of copying that kind of image, I suppose. Or maybe when you say the rods, maybe it's not clear. Like rods were connecting the tops of them or around them, or
they were around them. So if I can get like an example of like this oil lamp, and this was in the ground. Pretend this is the ground. there's
Yeah.
rods kind of like around. So they said the max was 4, so someone just maybe put like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, so the rods were sort of in the. Okay.
The
Okay.
ground
I can
around it,
picture it better
yeah.
now. Okay.
They
Yeah.
like caged them in, so like this essentially over
Yeah.
it, so it wouldn't move.
Mm. Well, are
And
these being found in graves? Did you mention that?
so this one, it said that they found the burial. So the Rabua one, they said they found a burial, and that was what instigated the excavations. They didn't say if they found that jar in the burial. They just
Mm.
found it during that excavation. These ones were not found in an excavation. They were potentially near what they said it's near a building, and they say the building could have been a cult building.
Mm.
And what's interesting with these ones, so just to go through like what else was found, and I'll tell you something really cool afterwards. So they all again had a small bronze cylinder that was sealed on either end, so similar to the Rabua one with the copper cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
And then each of them had like this tightly wrapped roll, potentially as like some plant matter. One of them had completely disintegrated, and third of the one actually had like paper, like it looked like a roll of paper that was folded over at the end. So there was some of this weird stuff inside, but they were found at different points in a rectangular structure built of sun-dried bricks, which stands isolated on the mounds, with every indication that it's from this like Parthian level. So none of them were connected with burials, but they had these incantation bowls in the same area.
Mm.
And incantation bowls are very cool. I added some pictures for you.
I did. Yeah, looking forward to getting to these.
I love them. I didn't really know about them until actually this as well. This one is from the Royal Ontario Museum. Big shout out to my favorite museum in the world, in Toronto, Canada. I always have to try and sneak that into a video when I can.
Shout out Canada.
Incantation bowls, which are these, as you can see, they're shallow bowls that are usually found like upside down.
Mm.
And they have spells written inside of them. So the words that you see, they can sometimes be spells, but it's always in this spiral. And it usually ends in a picture of a demon. So like this one, for example. Spooky
Interesting.
guy.
I wondered what that was.
Yeah. This one is from the Penn Museum.
I love the guy in the middle of this, the demon in the middle of
good.
this. I don't think I could draw one any better, to be honest, as well.
I do love the drawings because you're expecting this like really high piece of craftsmanship, but this is to get rid of a demon. You just got to do it really quick if you're getting haunted.
If you're haunted, yeah,
immediately.
You don't have days to paint the demon accurately. You got to get this demon out. Come on.
Wow. So they're meant to trap demons. Sometimes the demon is in chains, or this one's upside down. So what you do is you put them like under your threshold, upside down, and if anything bad tries to come in to your house or to like come at you, they're supposed to get like sucked up into the bowl.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How common a practice was this? If I'd have gone into any, like I've traveled back in time to Ctesiphon, am I walking into someone's house and everyone's got a bowl upside down in the doorway?
I'm not sure how popular they were. I know that it was like this form of protective magic that's mostly in Iraq and Iran. Nowadays. They were more of a late antiquity thing as well. So this is actually quite early. Usually they're about 6th to 8th centuries. And again, but that like Upper Mesopotamia, Syria. And I can't say how popular they were, unfortunately. I think only about 2,000 of them, but that's still quite a bit.
That's quite a bit. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't have been a daily thing, but maybe whenever you feel like something's not going quite right in your life, you feel some bad vibes in the area, you might do something like this.
Yeah, definitely. And they were used in multiple religions as well, especially because now we're getting into the time period where all these other religions are kind of coming up, like Christianity, Islam.
Yeah.
And, if you need a bowl to protect yourself, go for it. I wouldn't mind one, to be honest, knowing that someone's going to get sucked in and protecting me.
I have been feeling so much these days that, man, we have lost a lot of rituals. Like,
oh yeah,
our modern world is almost absent of ritual. in some way. I mean, maybe, or at least if we do have a ritual, they're very time specific. They're very like, you know, I'm thinking birthday, Christmas, things like that. We've lost a lot of like daily ritual, I think. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
in the ancient world there was so much more, so much more.
I think so too. It was more, it's also that thing that kind of brings you in community wise. It connects you to
Yes.
the people around you.
Yes, that's
And it,
exactly what I've been feeling. Like that's what we're lacking almost.
yeah.
These like community focused rituals.
I do think we need to bring some more of this back.
Definitely. Definitely.
Let's bring incantation bowls back.
This is how it starts. Place a bowl upside down. When you don't know a neighbor, place a bowl upside down outside their door
Yeah.
with just a little message inside.
When they move in, be like, welcome, this is to keep you safe.
Yeah.
And then you're now the weird neighbor.
But you'll bring the community together because when they see someone else, they can ask, did the lady at 35 give you a bowl and place it upside down outside your door? Like, you'll be the key.
Yeah. And then everyone starts to gather around. You're maybe not involved in the community, but everyone else is. And that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Martyring yourself for
Yeah.
the community.
Exactly. Every Christmas, people just bring you bowls because they're like, well, this is what she likes. I mean, this is the bowl lady. Yeah.
Spooky bowl. I found this spooky bowl and thought of you. Imagine. Actually,
Yeah.
I really want to do that now.
I know we're joking around. That actually might be a really good idea for Christmas presents, like hand-painted incantation bowls.
I like it.
And then you get to nerd out a little bit in the card, explain what they're for.
Yeah. And they can't throw it away because it's handmade.
The only thing I worry about is when you were talking about this, I was wondering if you had to smash the bowl to get rid of the bad luck. That was my like initial knee-jerk reaction. Like if caught something, smash. And I would hate for that to happen to these Christmas presents. But that's my knee-jerk reaction as to like what... that's what I assumed people were going to do with them.
Yeah,
like, how do you get rid of the ghost once it's caught?
I guess maybe because it's buried and there's all that like chthonic ritual of, you know, kind of going down into the underground and the underworld. Maybe they just kind of get sucked up and then sent down. I've not come across anything. Maybe someone in the comments is smarter than I am with incantation bowls. I've not really seen like what you do afterwards.
Yeah.
With them. You bury them. So maybe they're just supposed to stay there, and that's like a constant knowing that like it's there, almost like a foundation stone of like, I've done it, all is well. Don't need to worry about it anymore.
I see. Yes, okay. Yeah. Maybe. So you're going to have to dig up your neighbor's gardens, Raven.
What are you doing?
Bury a bowl.
It's for you.
Yeah.
My gift to you.
Yeah.
I would do that. I would get caught and arrested. So that's what these were at Seleucia, which are really cool. They were, two of them were actually in fake writing, and apparently 10% of all the bowls that we have are fake writing. And they were stacked together. And there was also an eggshell with similar markings underneath these bowls. So like maybe like a mini demon catcher, I'm hoping. Interestingly enough, there's also, it's not a primary source, but I saw it mentioned somewhere that the bowl, the Rabua Battery was also found with magical bowls where it was found. But again, there's no context. So
that's what I was wondering. Is this, so are you thinking the Baghdad batteries are some kind of elaborate demon catching contraption? Is that what your hypothesis is?
I think that they might be like this, like something similar to that. So I'm not the first one to come up with this idea. I just don't no one would be like, this is Raven's groundbreaking theory.
Yeah.
But reading other sources that have sort of gone into it as well, particularly there's one by Emmerich. I'm going to butcher his last name, but like Pasturi from the 80s. And I'll share this so people can see what it's how it's spelled and tell me how I've mispronounced that. What I think, especially after reading this article, especially now seeing as well with the incantation bowls that are found with it, incantation bowls are a form of protective magic. And if we're looking at the Baghdad Battery and it's ones from Seleucia, and we should probably get into the ones from Ctesiphon as well, because 6 were found at Ctesiphon. And they have something that's quite interesting, because all we've seen so far is that each jar has one tube in it, right? And when you look at this as well, look, that's not a battery. 100% it's not a battery, because it has its handle and its neck still attached to it.
Yeah.
But if you look at these ones, one of them, so this is Seleucia, that's Ctesiphon, as you can see how close they were to each other. But if you look at some of them, this one, for example, had 3 tubes found inside of it.
Yeah.
One of them had 10 iron nails found inside of it. And all the jars are different. And they all had these stoppers. This one had 10 cylinders in it with plant matter. Some of them had, in here as well, one of them had fragments of lead in it, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So looking at the ones that we found at Ctesiphon as well, and how varied they were, and what's inside of them, you can then go back to this Emmerich article about, is it electric generation or is it something magical? Which I think is very interesting, because, again, we have this protective magic of the incantation bowls, and we have these jars which have metal and bitumen and potentially these like rolled up scrolls. Let's call them that. And if we're just completely ignoring electroplating, because we now know that that's not what happened, and it didn't have enough of a charge, and it would have degenerated the iron. And we're looking at it again from a cultural historical perspective within this context. We can do that amazing archaeological thing where we can say it was ritual.
I think it always is ritual, to be honest. I know that's a cliche, but Roman dodecahedrons, ritual.
Oh yeah.
Any magic artifact you want, I'm on team ritual, to be honest. I really am.
I think it's because it was such a part of ancient life.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays it isn't. But things like this, I can see it happening. And the ones that were found at Ctesiphon in 1931, so they were found literally a year after the Seleucia ones. They were all found within this very short period of time. The excavation person, his last name was Kühnel, or Kühnel, I guess in German. And he actually quoted it saying, like when he was writing about them, saying it was for conjurations, blessings, and the like, written perhaps on papyrus. And that makes sense. They're like little messages in a bottle.
Yeah.
These metals as well. Pastore also mentions that the metals were also protective. So copper is a protective metal.
It almost reminds me of perhaps like some places like in Bath in England and other places across Europe, they find Roman curse tablets, like little tablets with little messages on. They would be deposited in, I don't know how they would pick the location, but somewhere where a god would find it and strike your enemy down.
Oh yeah. And you see a lot of those, which is a really good segue into looking at the nails that we found with some of the jars, especially in Seleucia. And the lead that was found in the Ctesiphon one, because curse tablets were often made in lead. And lead was actually perceived, like when it first came out, it was actually quite like a powerful metal, but lead turns into like a harmful metal, like for harmful magic. And, we know it's poisonous. I'm sure the ancient people didn't really know that it's poisonous, but people could have figured, you get vibes from things, and it has a gray-black color.
Maybe. I mean, they did use it as plates a lot, though, and stuff like that, so.
That's true. Crappy metal, and we're going to put our curses on it.
I think maybe, it's just a disposable thing. Like, if you've got to get rid of this thing,
yeah,
you'd have to be a real big shot to do it in something expensive.
That's true. That's what we're thinking potentially. Well, not we. I'm not talking to any of these scientists or researchers. But because, we have these lead curse tablets, the lead that was found in one of the jars at Ctesiphon could be one that's maybe not protective, but actually being quite harmful to someone. So maybe you're damning somebody because the best method with these curse tablets, you write on the lead, you roll it up, and you put it in the ground, or you put it in. Isn't like there's wall ones? You put it in the wall in Rome, I think.
That's what I thought they would put in walls.
Yeah. From watching Rome, the HBO series, I remember that.
I think yeah, that was what I had also heard. But maybe that's also because I love Rome as well, the HBO series. Yeah.
The nails itself are quite interesting because with a lot of the curse tablets, you would like stick a nail through it, like you would kind of puncture it to sort of drive that message home.
Hmm.
And iron is a very, quote, aggressively protective metal, as I've learned in the research. And it was hostile to demons. And it was actually stronger than copper because copper was also protective and it was going to like break all the spells. And guess what every jar had? An iron nail.
Iron. Yeah.
Crazy. And if you look at them, if you remember the jars at Seleucia when we were doing the example of how each of them had rods around it,
Mm-hmm.
and each jar had one iron nail.
Interesting. Interesting. So not just merely to keep the object in place, but the iron is adding another layer of meaning into it.
Yeah, so maybe to like, ensnare that demon in a different way from the pots, or to drive the magic home if it's a protective spell, to ensure it happened, and do all of that stuff. They were all in different places though, right? Because we had some, that one jar in Ctesiphon just had all of the iron nails in it. They were in Seleucia, they were outside. In the Baghdad Battery, the Rabua one, it was sort of suspended. And there's this nail magic is actually quite popular both in the ancient world, and it's even symbolic today. Actually, in Iraq nowadays, when someone is sick, you stick a nail in a wall nearby to like bind that evil spirit if that's taking over your body.
Oh, really?
So I think that this was something that like the nails were just being like, well, let's make sure that this spell actually works, and we're going to drive it home with this like notion of sympathetic magic. Because back before we had science explaining things like thunder, people were like, things are caused by gods and demons and monsters. So you need to like get on their good side, essentially, and try and break things and prevent this bad energy from getting to you.
Yes. It's interesting. God, this literally links so well to the last video I did about cup and ring marks, but we were wondering, like, if in that video, if the rock had some symbolic meaning for people. Like we think the landscape has meaning, but when we're looking at a huge panel of rock art, maybe the literal rock that they've chosen also has a meaning. And it's so interesting to imagine, like now we have scientific explanations for all of these things. So we don't have like an alternate explanation for what iron is or copper is or lead is or pottery, or when bad things happen, sometimes we still do lean into gods and fate and things. But like before the sort of scientific revolution, I imagine almost, well, not every, but so many artifacts had probably this like symbolic explanation to them too. Like they had their physical properties, but maybe they also had like spiritual properties for many, many, many things, because people, don't know where iron comes from and how the earth formed and all of these things and why different things have different properties. They don't have a periodic table explaining these things, right?
Exactly. You just kind of have to go with your gut, or like and like older traditions and
the traditions and the worldview that you have.
But yeah, 100%. I think that's a big thing that maybe we don't think about when we're looking at ancient objects as well, is that aspect of not just as you were saying, like not just the art itself, but the rock that it was chosen to be put on.
Yes, like the canvas choice or the material choice is not just like purely practical, right? It's not just like, oh, iron is good for a nail because it's hard or whatever. Like there's a meaning to the canvas, and there's a meaning to the materials that are used in these things beyond just utility, practicality, all of these things.
We'll never be able to go. I really wish now. Maybe we should go back to these like Iranian empires and just ask them all these questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Please.
But they might also just shrug and be like, I don't know, we do it because we've always done it. That's the other side of it. Like these traditions can kind of perpetuate themselves for unknown reasons. This is like
PTSD from like English class in like high school when they go, the author made it this because they wanted to express this, and the author's like, no, I just wanted to write the book, and that's what I imagined, you know. And you're like, ah. Yeah.
I'm sure sometimes people say that about our YouTube videos, like excellent editorial choice, creative choice, and it's like that's literally the only picture I could find of this, of this or whatever.
People look for meaning in everything, and you know, people back then were looking for meaning in things, and if putting a jar underground or a bowl underground with a demon captured in it, and that helped you sleep at night, then who's to blame you, right?
I'm just seeing the text in complexly, couldn't get the word out. Rolled silver scroll from Jerash.
Yes, I have that up ready to talk about, because this one's a really cool insight, because if we're looking at the jars, right, they have that plant fiber, that papyrus that we think, or the potentially papyrus, that these like tightly rolled scrolls that were found in the tubes, those aren't going to be used for electroplating. All right, we're not going to put paper in something like that. So the thought is that spells for protection could have been written on them and then placed in that tube, the copper tube, for added protection. And then they would like bury them for the, you know, the gods or the spirits or whoever. And we do have lots of evidence of materials like gold, silver, silk, and papyrus being used for this sort of protective magic and getting rolled up and then placed in a protective case. Sometimes they're worn like amulets. Sometimes they're buried. And this is an example that they found of a rolled silver scroll from Jerash that was, again, for protection.
It's almost as if once you understand the full context these things are found in, it seems less and less likely that it's a result of ancient aliens.
What?
Interesting.
Exactly. And I love that they've been able to do these like these scans of it and seeing what it looked like. And it was in a lead case.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. And good on the conservator for getting that out. Like, as a conservator.
Oh my God. How do they do that? Yeah. Intact. Like it's like it looks fully intact. They got it out.
It's terrifying. I would never be able to do it.
That's what I was, you know, how, and I say we as if I'm involved in any way, but people are sort of using AI and laser scanning to read charred scrolls from Herculaneum. In my head, I'm always like, how did you even move that scroll without it just disintegrating immediately?
You just don't breathe it.
Yeah.
So careful. That's why I don't work with that stuff anymore. It's just too stressful.
One sneeze and 2,000 years of history is just gone.
Could you imagine? So that's probably what the Baghdad Battery and its 11 other counterparts were. If before people come in the comments about, well, what about the ceramic jar? It's probably just an extra like protective layer when you're being buried, or when it's being buried. So, you know, because the metal obviously gets squished, but pottery is quite robust.
Yeah. So I mean, people put things in stuff all the time.
Yeah. Like time capsule stuff.
Boxes, jars.
Yeah.
Anyone watching, I'm sure, has 20 boxes in their house with nonsense in. We don't just pile stuff up outside of containers. Yeah. We tend to put stuff in stuff.
Imagine the one with the guy that had 10. He was really desperate to protect somebody, right? You're not going to bury 10 individual ones. You stick them all in one, kind of get it all sent down at the same time. It's like mailing in bulk on Amazon.
Yeah, maybe they're like, maybe they're super frugal. Maybe this is like accumulation over several years of curses. And he's like, I'm not going to waste a perfectly good pot. I'm just going to keep adding them in. And then when it's time, I'll bury it.
And then you add the bitumen, which is also this, you know, this protective healing goo, and you seal the jar with that. It makes it watertight, so it protects the metal and the papyrus from decomposing in a jar, which is readily available, accessible. Just makes sense, doesn't it?
I think so. Almost as plausible as Ancient Aliens, Raven. You've done an excellent,
Almost.
almost
Maybe one day I'll get
excellent
there.
job there. Yeah,
Do what we can, fighting the
yeah,
good fight.
exactly. Yeah,
So that is, or those are, the Baghdad batteries. Not so much batteries.
not so much batteries, but things to protect you from demons.
Which I prefer.
Because if they had a battery, let's be honest, they didn't do anything with it. There's nothing.
I found these great AI photos actually to share with you about the Baghdad battery.
Oh, God. Ah, yes, snakes, of course. Snakes are powering everything.
Yeah. And no, don't look at the foot hand.
What's it called?
This one's great too. This one's a flashlight, Baghdad battery. Well, this is obviously what they were doing back in the day.
Well, I also have signed up for the Google AI video creator, just out of curiosity. So hang on, let's see here. 1 second. Let's see here. Guys, don't worry. I'm not going to start using AI. I just signed up for fun just to see what it does. Okay, here we go. There's sound too. Can you hear that? Wow, that's kind of crazy, huh? It is incredible how realistic the people look and the lighting and everything. No. It is annoyingly fun to play around with. It is going to destroy human civilization, but sadly, annoyingly, it does entertain you for 3 minutes. Well, Google says you're wrong, Raven. So actually, it was for TV, and it was about ancient TVs.
All those trips to the library were worthless.
I know. But isn't it interesting? It's got like a pretty appropriately sized jar. It's got the nail down the middle. Isn't that kind of interesting?
It is really cool how they did it. And it looks like they've even created like the copper wire, and they've done a great job recreating the jar. I will give them props for that.
Subscribe, everyone.
Thanks for joining me, Stefan. This
of course.
was great.
I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
And I learned a lot about these things, honestly.
Same. I love like these conversations with people who like are into the same things, like when we're talking about them, so we could just really delve into it and actually get to different conclusions.
Yeah. Some of them as good as Ancient Aliens. Yeah.
In our opinion.
Yeah.
Thanks so much to Stefan for coming and chatting with me about the Baghdad Battery. Hope you guys learned a lot and realized what it actually could have been. Be sure to subscribe to both of our channels. Big thank you to all of my patrons over on Patreon. If you like the channel and you want to help support the channel, you know what to do. Head on over to Patreon and become a patron. And as always, stay dirty, my friends.